What's going on, everybody? We're back for another Acceptable Casualties battle report. Today we have 400 points of Battlegroup. We're going to be doing the Siege of Odessa. We'll be back in a second to go over the list and the scenario. So here we have our 400 points of Soviets. I know it looks a little bit light, and I'm going to go over that in a second. So down here we have our forward HQ. He has a gas jeep attached to him. Over here we have our first Soviet rifle platoon with just 4 standard rifle squads in there. They have the what is it called? The DMP. I forgot what it is, whatever the machine gun is. So each one has one of them. In the back, we have a 45 millimeter and an AT gun dugout. Next to them, we have the infantry gun, the 76 millimeter infantry gun, and then we have an AT rifle to support as well. So this is the first platoon over here. The second platoon of infantry is the platoon commander, the same exact 4 rifle squads from the first one. We have a 45 millimeter AT gun in the AT gun dugout, and then we have another AT rifle. From specialists for support, we have sappers. It's an 8-man sapper team with a flamethrower, and then they're going to have Ziz truck as well to kind of get them around the battlefield. This is roughly 250 points. I'm going to swing over here, and then you guys can see the remainder of the points here for Vin. So Vin has a machine gun bunker right here. He has 4 trench lines going across the line right here. There's a command bunker with a mortar spotter team that's inside there as well. Vin has a minefield. He has foxholes that can be placed in the woods over here. There's also a machine gun nest right there, and Vin has a 76 millimeter barrage. We're going to be playing, I think, what is it, the hill one, whatever it is. I think high ground is what it's called. So that's why Vin has some extra fortifications as well as a fortified list. We're going to go over that when we get back to going over deployment. So this is the Soviets, 400 points. Battle rating is 25, right, Vin?
Yeah.
25 battle rating for these guys. We'll be back in a second to go over the Germans. So here we have our 400 points of early war Germans. First game out. It's actually my first time playing Germans besides Fallschirmjäger, so hopefully I don't butcher this too badly. So down here we have our forward HQ. They're going to be in a half track. Over here we have our platoon of Schützen infantry right here. We have our platoon command in a half track. We have 3 squads in the back, as you see, all in half tracks. There's 6-man rifle squads, and there's also a 3-man MG34 team on bipods attached to them. Down here out of support, we took an MG34 on tripod. We have a 50 millimeter mortar team, and then we also have an 80 millimeter mortar team. Over here, we took a 223 for our recce command out of the recce slot. We have a 263 out of the forward HQ to kind of do our communications for all of our artillery and stuff like that. Lets you reroll comms tests. Over here we have a squad of Panzer IIIs. The one here is upgraded to, I believe it's a G. It's a G or an F. I can't remember exactly. But so that's what we have right here for those 3. And then I also took a Panzer 4D to help support the Panzers. So this is 400 points here. I also have a timed airstrike for a Stuka. I'm not going to say when this coming in because I got Vince standing right next to me. So this is what I'm looking at for 400 points right here. Yeah, you want me to tell you? Yeah, sure, I'll tell you. So this is what we're looking at here for 400 points. We'll be back in a second to go over the scenario and the deployment. All right, so we are back for deployment, and I'm trying to go over the scenario a little bit now too. So this kind of setup right now that we have right here is loosely based off the Siege of Odessa, which was like 1941. I think it went from August to October. It's like one of like the first big operations in Barbarossa. So for the Siege of Odessa, there was 3 defense lines that the Soviets set up. There was one that was roughly 30 kilometers outside of Odessa. It was a pretty big defense line. I think it was like 80 kilometers long. Then there was another one that was 6 to 8 kilometers away from the actual city that was manned. And then the last line of defense was actually in Odessa. So this scenario that we set up is kind of loosely based on the first line of defense that was set up on the outskirts of Odessa, the one that was like 30 kilometers outside of the city. If you guys actually watching, World War II movies, on Amazon Prime right now, if you guys have that, or if you don't, you just know, a place that you can pick it up. There's this movie called Battle of Sevastopol, and then the first battle that's in that is actually part of the Siege of Odessa. It's like the outskirts of Odessa, and they do a really good job of kind of showing how that worked out in the open plains. And this is kind of like I said, I tried to use that as a little bit of inspiration as far as setting this up. There's a little bit more terrain on the table because obviously it's a war game. I wanted to get a little more stuff out there to make some more strategic decisions instead of just like this open field. So that's kind of like the basis of the game. The outside of Odessa, the far brink of the defenses, this is going to be like the first wave of Germans coming in. It was mostly a Romanian offensive, but supported by Germans. But this is going to be the Germans because I don't have Romanians. So let's go over the defenses right here first, and then we'll go over to the Germans attacking. So Vin is allowed to bring in 9 of his 18 units to set up. So what he did is he took 4 of his rifle platoons, well, one full platoon, and he ended up manning the trenches here, going all the way down. There's his platoon command with the first objective is going to be right there. Over here, Vin took another rifle squad and planted them in the foxholes over here. They're going to be supporting the AT gun that Vin placed over there to kind of watch this alleyway going down the table over here. And right next to them, they have a heavy machine gun nest as well. Up here on this hill, Vin has his 45 millimeter. It's going to be on the flank of that machine gun bunker to help support these guys down in the trenches. Back over here, there's that command bunker that we talked about earlier with the 3 guys in there at the spot. And they're going to have the 76 millimeter field gun, the infantry gun, right next to them. That's going to be the other objective right there. And then on my side of the table, I have the objective going out of town. For Vin, he also has these 2 guys right here. They're going to be placed in ambush. And then over there, that 45 millimeter is also in ambush. For his reserves coming in later, so I believe it's turn 5 that they come in. He's gonna have the 2 anti-tank rifles, the sappers, commander, and the majority of that 2nd rifle platoon will be coming in for Vim. For the attackers, I have Panzer III and a Panzer IV here. They're gonna be supported by 2 of the Schutzen squads. They're going to be inside those half tracks, kind of supporting up the table right there. I also have the 263, the comms 8-rad that's going to be right there. And then over there, I have my forward HQ. They also have the 80 millimeter mortar inside the half track. So this is what I'm looking at for my setup. I also have turn 4, my full 2nd wave comes in, which is going to be the 223 Recce command, 2 of the Panzer IIIs. There's going to be the platoon command for the Schutzen platoon, and then another one of the Schutzen squads. They're going to be coming in as well on turn 4. So that's what we're looking at right here for deployment. We'll be back in a second for top of turn 1 for the Germans. So we are back for top of turn 1 for the Germans. Out of the gates, things are feeling pretty good right now. It was a good first turn for the Germans here. So we ended up getting, I rolled my initial roll. I rolled 3 orders. I opted to use my 1 reroll with my senior officer, and that gave me, I think, like 6, or I gave me 5 orders, and then the additional 3 that I got was enough for me to move everybody because I had all the officers on my list. So what I started off with, I had my forward command, my forward HQ right there. He dropped off the mortar team in the back. They disembarked, and then I pushed up to that fence line there, and then I fired some shots down range, but didn't really do anything with my machine gun. Down over here, I pushed up my Panzer III and Panzer IV to the edge over here. Vim popped his ambush with that 45 millimeter gun right there, but failed to do any damage. In return fire, I was actually able to pin Vin's 45 millimeter, and then with my half tracks coming up the table, I was actually able to use machine gun fire, and I was able to actually pin in the machine gun bunker here as well. Vin rolled like a 1 on his cover save, and he just needed a 2 up. So both of these guys actually did that twice. So there's both of these units right here actually lost a man. Both are pinned. The machine gun bunker still does have their ambush marker right here. And then I moved up my 263 to that side of the hill there to kind of help support this offensive on this side of the table. So that's what we're looking at here for the top of turn 1 for the Germans. Like I said, pretty good opening turn for us. We'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 1 for the Soviets. So we are back for bottom of turn 1 for the Soviets. Vin returned the favor on this one. So Vin ended up rolling 8 orders. Like I said, he has that command chaos rule, and he ended up rolling like 2 orders for his officers. They don't get 1 extra order for each officer. They have to roll a D3. So like I said, Vin had 8 orders on here. So what Vin ended up doing was the decided to use these first two rifle squads to try to pin these open top vehicles down here. Vin needed a 6, and of course Vin rolled back-to-back 6s and pinned both of my half tracks down here. I'm out in the open. I don't have a vehicle save or anything like that, so they're just kind of pinned right now. So I'm probably gonna have to dismount my my squads all the way back here, or just wait a little bit and then unpin them later. Vin then ended up putting these two in ambush. He put his rifle squad in ambush, AT gun in ambush, and machine gun over there in ambush. So he put those guys in ambush, and then he tried dropping a barrage from the field gun with the spotter in that bunker over there. Ended up he tried putting it here, scattered to there, and then Vin failed to pin. He had one pin opportunity on the Panzer III right here, and he ended up failing that. So that's all that happened here, but with 2 6s, Vin's already stunted my assault on this flank. And then Vin also pulled his shit, and he unpinned both of these guys up here on top of the hill, because this is pretty pivotal to Vin's defense on this side of the table. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 2 for the Germans. So we are back for top of turn 2 for the Germans. I ended up rolling, I think, like 13 orders. Obviously couldn't use them all, so I got on the table now until turn 4. So to start my turn off, I had the mortars back there in the corner. I used my forward HQ over there to spot. I was able to pick up a spot here on the edge of the hill. I rolled a 6 for my scatter, and then I only scattered 1 inch, which was pretty much dead on. It was enough to, with my 2 dice from the mortar, I rolled a 2 and a 1, so I was able to try to pin these guys, but I failed to pin. It was bad. So over here, I used my 263 to lay down some machine gun fire to try to pin Vin up there. Vin actually made one of the saves over there. And then I rolled up my my Panzer IV first over to here, fired my shot down there, ended up failing to pin there. And then with my Panzer III, I dropped some machine gun fire down there. I was actually able to pin Vin 45 with it. Vin failed his save. He rolled like a 2 and he needed a 3. So they're pinned again right there. And then at the end of my turn, I pulled the shit to unpin these half tracks so I can kind of get this assault moving forward again. So we'll be back in a second for the bottom of turn 2. Oh man, we just gotta get a little more, gotta make a little bit more headway here. So we'll be back in a second, bottom turn 2 for the Soviets. So we are back for bottom of turn 2 for the Soviets. Pretty decent turn right here. Had my heart racing a little bit. So Vin ended up taking his, he had what, 6 orders, right?
Yeah.
6 orders Vin ended up getting total. He decided to direct fire his infantry gun down here, fire HE round, and lo and behold, guess what? Vin got a hit. He needed like I think a 9, or he needed like a 10 to pen me. He ended up rolling like a 3. I rolled my morale because he hit me, and of course, my Panzer III is now pinned. So that was unfortunate. Vin then ended up taking his 45 mil over there in the corner, fired 2 shots down on my Panzer IV. No luck on that, though. I think he needed 6s to hit because his gun wheeled outside of that 45-degree angle, and I moved. So it was just 6s is what it was with the distance. Vin then used his 2 rifle squads over here to try to pin my half tracks. That ended up failing, and I think that's all Vin ended up doing. He did pull a shit at the end of his turn to unpin that 45, the anchor of the defense on this side of the table. I'm just gonna have to pin you again. We're just gonna have to keep playing this game. Let's go. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 3 for the Germans. See if we can make a little more headway. Can't believe you pinned my Panzer III, man.
Dude, actually, that was
yeah,
that helped a lot right there.
That sucks. So all right, so we'll be back in a second. Top 3 for the Germans. So we are back for the top of turn 3 for the Germans. This turn, pretty good, got what we needed to do. So I ended up rolling enough orders to get everybody activated again. So my first one, I ended up trying to drop a mortar here. It ended up drifting 7 inches over there. I was able to try to attempt to pin these guys with the mortar round, but Vin ended up making his save, so no dice on that one. Then down here, I used my 263 over there to do some machine gun fire up here, failed to pin there, but then the Panzer IV-D ended up dropping a shot in there to try to pin Vin with my first open fire. My second one I was going to try to blow him up, but with the open fire, Vin failed to save with a cover save with a 1 again, so lost another guy, and they rolled another 1 for their morale, so they just ended up breaking off the table. So that 45 millimeter is now off this side of the table. Then I pushed up my 2 half tracks here. And Vin ended up popping his ambushes with the machine gun bunker and this rifle squad over here, but failed to pin these guys. Then I tried shooting in, trying to pin this team right here, and Vin ended up making his save to keep those guys in the fight right now. I pulled a chit also to unpin the Panzer III, so this assault right here looks like it's getting closer and closer. It might actually happen. Going into turn 4 as well, I got my second wave coming in. So this is what we're looking at right now for top of turn 3, coming back in a second for bottom of turn 3 for the Soviets. We're back for bottom of turn 3. Couple close calls on this one. So what Vin ended up doing here, he ended up having, he had enough orders to do everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Vin had enough orders to get everybody active over here. Between the machine gun fire from the nest and down here, Vin was actually able to pin both of my half tracks again. We looked it up in the rules, so it looks like there's nothing that says that the guys in there under the suppression fire section say that the passengers are pinned. So we're gonna play it that you can still dismount, but the vehicles themselves still are pinned. If that's different than how we're gonna play it, let us know. It's how we've always played it. But yeah, just like leave a comment in the bottom section. I'm pretty sure that's right, but I'm not 100% sure. So up here also, Vin fired down with his damn field gun again, and Vin hit the Panzer III with his first shot. After I just unpinned it, he failed to penetrate, but I had to pass my morale test, and I did, thankfully. But I wasn't too happy about that. That damn gun, got to come off that hill. Vin also took that 45 that's tucked back there in the gun pit. He tried to fire twice down here. He failed to hit on both of those shots with the AP rounds. And then I think you put these guys in ambush?
Yep.
And then those guys back in ambush?
They've always been in ambush.
They've always been in ambush. And that's kind of all that happened here this turn. So we're going down to the top of turn 4. I got my second wave coming in, so we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn 4. I ended up getting my second wave in this turn. I had a boatload of orders. Things went pretty well. So I ended up having my Ju-87, the Stuka. This is where I had the predetermined point right there, exactly in between both of these bunkers. I ended up rolling, one large bomb, 4 small bombs. The large bomb missed, and then I got 1 direct hit and 1 pin on the field gun that was there, and then 1 pin attempt on that. I was able to wipe out the gun. I had 5 hits.
Yeah.
I think I had 7 dice to roll, needed 3s. Vin just kind of got wiped out with that gun, and then I failed to pin the bunker over there. I also tried to drop a mortar on these guys over here. I got 1 direct hit, 1 pin. I killed 1 guy. Vin got it beyond the Call of Duty tests and passed it. He tried to fire down here and pin my half track that I moved earlier and failed to do that. And then Vin passed his motivation on the pin as well. So that's what happened over there. Over here, I kind of just wheeled up some of my tanks, and I tried to machine gun and pin anything that I could over here, and I biffed across the board. I couldn't get anything going. Vin made his saves, so those guys ended up staying active and ready to go. For my reserves that I brought in one of the Panzer IIIs right here. One of the half tracks over here to support this side. My command, the platoon half track, is pushed up to right here. I ended up pulling up my Panzer III. I was able to actually pin the 45mm over there with machine gun fire, which is pretty big. And then I brought up the 223 Recce Command, and they tried to fire and pin over here, but they failed to do so. So that's kind of what happened here for top of turn 4. I got everything on the table. Vin's going to have 1 more turn to weather the storm, and then his reserves will start rolling on as well. So I'll be back in a flash. We are back for bottom of turn 4 for the Soviets. This is just a lot of ridiculousness. So Vin ended up getting, I think, 7 orders or something like that?
Yeah.
So Vin put a bulk of his middle line there in ambush. Down here, once again, I was in range. Vin was able to pin my Panzer IV over here. He rolled a 6. I got no cover save because I'm out in the open. So kind of got boned on that one. And then back over there at the end of the turn, you guys can see the 45mm missing, and I'm going to take you through the series of events. So
that's pretty amazing.
At the end of the turn, those guys were pinned. Vin opted to pull a chit. The chit Vin pulled was ammo low.
Yeah.
So ammo low, Vin pulled on my mortar team in the back. Of course, Vin rolled a 6, which made the mortar team completely out of ammo. They just left the field. So I had to pull a chit. The chit I pulled was Confusion. I played Confusion back on Vin's 45 millimeter over there, and Vin rolled a 2, and a 2 on that for a gun team is just abandoned. So Vin had to leave the field. His gun team broke, and that's the end. So then Vin had to pull a shit for his 45 millimeter, which ended up being something that he couldn't play. So that's what we're looking at right now for the bottom of turn 4, going to the top of turn 5. Vin's all your anti-tank assets are off the table right now. Vin still has 2 anti-tank rifles and some sappers with a flamethrower and anti-tank grenades that can come in from reserve. So it all is not lost right here. And the way that his guys are shooting in these trench lines right here, he's probably going to pin every Panzer that I have coming up the flank anyway. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 5 for the Jerrys. And I think it's time to start pushing on these trench lines. We're back for the top of turn 5 for the Germans, and wow, holy fail. So literally everything you see here tried to fire down and pin Vin. Everything. I moved up the Panzer III, the Recce over here, all these tanks over here. Everybody just tried to pin over here. I was able to pin 1 unit. That was it. With how many? 9 orders. 9 orders. I tried to pin everything. Yeah, everything. Those were rolling 4s, 5s, and 6s. Up over here, I jumped out with the MG34 on the tripod. Vin popped an ambush and return fire actually killed one of the guys off of here and pinned them. The 2-inch mortar failed. Just a lot of fail everywhere. So yeah, 9 orders, 1 pin, and then Vin made like 35 saves, whatever it was ridiculous. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 5. Vin's gonna start getting some reserves in, so we'll see how that plays out. Right now, I'm kind of stalled here in the middle of the open field. This isn't a good place to be in. So we'll be back in a flash. We are back for bottom of turn 5. Vin's reserves coming on the table. Vin had 2 reserves, the truck with sappers, and then one of Vin's anti-tank rifles is pushing up on that side over there. Vin had 7 orders, I think, right, in total, so he wasn't able to do that much, but of course, Vin put these guys in ambush and then fired with the rifle team, and Vin was able to pin another one of my half-tracks. So this side of the table, I got 4 pin vehicles over here. Vin also opened up with the machine gun nest and that rifle team there. They tried to pin the 2-inch, the 50 millimeter mortar over here, failed, and they also tried to shoot to kill as well and failed. And then Vin was actually able to hit these guys. He rolled 9 dice, needing 5s to pluck a wound off me, and then 0 for 9. So I kind of dodged a bullet right there. And then Vin, of course, he just dropped. This whole trench line is an ambush right here. So I'm feeling antsy though, man. I feel like I got to try to charge. So it's probably we're gonna test the waters probably next turn and see how that goes. So we'll be back in a flash for top of turn 6 for the Jerrys. I said it. I'm gonna do it. The assault on the trench line is going to begin. So we'll be back in a flash. We are back for the top of turn 6. And I did what I said I was gonna do. And I don't know how I feel about it. So for this turn. A lot of pushing up with the vehicles and getting some support fire down here. So like I said, I moved up with the Panzer III. I moved up my half-track over there. The 2 vehicles over here moved up. We tried to pin these guys in the trench. Failed to do that. Vin did pop his ambush and on the Panzer right there, but failed to do anything. He wasn't able to pin them out of that. Over here, we were actually able to pin all 3 units going down the trench line here, which was pretty big. On the assaults, I jumped out of the half-tracks over here. So this group I ended up coming out with. Vin tried to pop his ambush with his command team, failed twice. I failed to pin, I think, anything. I tried to pin the bunker up here. When the rifle team jumped out of this half-track right here, they got to this point. Vin opened up with the ambush from the bunker. He was able to pin. I rolled a 1 on my cover save for being out in the open. I lost a guy for that, and then Vin killed another guy afterwards. And so they're down to 4, and they got pinned. From this half-track here, I was able to jump out to this point, get a close assault off in the middle. I had 11 dice after I factored in my grenades. I got 9 hits, and then Vin made 8 saves. So, yeah, so that was unfortunate. But like I said, they're already pinned over here, but they're down 1 man over there. And then over here, I jumped out, and I used my MG34 team to actually pin these guys with machine gun fire. So this entire line over here is pinned, which is pretty nice. But like I said, Vin still has some active stuff coming up the table. So we're going in the bottom of turn 6 right now for the Soviets. I don't know, it doesn't look bad. Like it still looks, yeah, it still looks like you're in pretty good shape. So we'll be back in a second for bottom turn 6 for the Reds. We are back for bottom of turn 6. Vin opened up the turn with that 76 millimeter artillery barrage that came off table. Vin had it measured. Actually, it ended up being like right on top of my. I pretty much parked on the pre-registered target. So Vin ended up rolling 4 dice. He got 1 direct hit, 1 pin. The direct hit ended up just blowing up the half track. Surprisingly, didn't kill anybody. And then both these units are pinned, though. That came out of there. Then with some machine gun fire from the bunker up here. Oh, sorry. Vin had 7 orders after that. Vin rolled 5 for his reserves. So this is the wall of infantry that came in off the back, which only left Vin 2 active orders to use for his guys that were on the table previously. So Vin used the machine gun bunker over here to pin these guys. I ended up rolling a 1 for my cover save out in the open. It's a 6-up t-shirt. So I lost 1 guy. So both of these units are pinned. And then Vin failed to pin with some of his other shots down here on the machine gun teams. So that was Vin's turn, but like I said, that barrage is pretty good. I got so many guys pinned over here. I'm going to have to pull a shit this turn coming up. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 7. I got to get the ball rolling here, man. Vin's still hanging in. I don't think he's pulled enough of numbers out of there to really make this a serious threat yet for the end of the game. So we'll be back in a flash. So we're back for the top of turn 7 for the Germans. A little bit lighter there on the front line. So this turn we had 10 orders, and it was a mix of good and bad. More bad than anything. So what ended up happening was I had those 2 teams that were sitting right here that were pinned, the 2 remainders of that rifle team. What ended up happening was with one of my tanks over here, I fired into this unit. I was able to kill 1 guy. Vin rolled a 6 on his Beyond the Call of Duty. Then he ended up passing his Beyond the Call of Duty test. And when Vin decided to just fire into the 2 infantry teams right in front of him, just absolutely butchered them. I had 1 squad got killed to a man, the other one got killed to 1 guy, and they ended up breaking. So Vin wiped out 2 of the rifle squad that pulled chits for that. One of the chits I did pull was an airstrike, so we'll see how that pans out next turn. For the rest of the turn, as you guys can see, we were able to pin everything going down this entire trench line with machine gun fire. The command team here is down to 1 guy. Vin ended up making 1 out of his 3 saves or something like that, and ended up passing his morale, so he's in pretty good shape over there. We put the command team here in ambush, just kind of waiting and covering over there. And then I pulled another chit to unpin 5 units. So these guys are unpinned in the back. These guys got pinned. I went for an assault. They ended up crapping their pants, so they got pinned. I ended up unpinning them. Unpinned the Panzer IV over here, and then there was something else that got unpinned as well. Oh, yeah, then the MG34 on the tripod is unpinned as well. So that's what we're looking at. The units are opened up over here. Vin's front line is completely pinned, but as you can see, there is a giant wave of Soviets that are coming up along the backside of that hill. So we'll see how, what that turns into, going into the bottom of turn 7 for the Reds. We are back for the bottom of turn 7. For this turn, Vin had his last reserve come in, which was the command jeep in the back corner. That's a senior officer without any of the senior officer skills. Vin rolled like 13 orders, so it was pretty much everybody was able to kind of do their thing. So that second wave is pushing up over here on this flank. Vin moved up the command jeep and the anti-tank rifle to kind of solidify that side over there. Down here, Vin used his lone rifle command team to pin these guys. Then he failed. Then he tried to shoot to kill with the second order. Wasn't able to do it. Up here, the MG bunker, it failed to observe either one of these machine gun teams. Wasn't able to do anything with that. And then over there, Vin had tried to shoot my MG34 on the tripod down here. actually was able to get one round of fire off, 9 dice. How many? You needed 5s. I think 2 hits got through. I rolled double 6s to save their bacon in the woods right there, so that was pretty huge. And then the machine gun nest over there, trying to hit the 2-inch mortar down here, failed to observe his target twice. So that's what we're looking at right now, bottom 7. I'm going to really need to capitalize and get a hold of this trench line before those guys start coming over the top of the hill. So Vin also did pull a shit to unpin his units. He rolled a 1, which was, he unpinned the guys right here, but he did pull an airstrike. So we got back-to-back airstrikes coming in. We'll see if anybody rolls a 5 up and it makes it interesting, so we'll be back in a flash. Turn 8, right? Yeah, we are back for the top of turn 8 for the Germans. This is just a lot of gunfire. So we were able to obviously whittle down Vin's platoon command and the guys in the trenches there, but not before Vin passed the Beyond the Call of Duty test on this group right here, and Vin was able to machine gun to death the MG-34 team that was sitting right there. And then the next set of fire, we ended up doing that. I think I had, what, 9 orders?
Yeah.
That came in. So that was like the highlight of the turn. A lot of machine gun fire and trying to pin these units here. The one thing that came up kind of big, but not really, I ended up getting the air attack. It was a Ju-87 with the bombs. I ended up dropping 4 of the small bombs right here. It scattered over to this point. Vin made his saves to keep the bunker alive, but it was enough to pin the guys over here. And then, like I said, after that, there was some Beyond the Call of Duty test after some machine gun fire, and some damage was done there. With these guys here, I ended up pushing them up and assaulting these guys. What did I get? I had like 9. Yeah, I ended up rolling nine hits on the close assault. Vin was pinned, so he had nothing in return. He ended up making 9 saves and saved these guys, which was just freaking ridiculous. And then with my other order, I had a rifle team back here that I moved up and tried to get them in a position to kind of support these guys here. So not a great turn, but we did take 2 of Vin's units off the table. What I'm worried about is that Vin has that airstrike chit sitting right there, and the way this game's going, you know he's going to roll a 5 or a 6, and this is strafe city right here. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 8 for the Reds and see how this plays out. So we are back for bottom of turn 8, and of course Vin rolled a 5 for his aircraft. And of course, Vin rolled a 5 to see what it was, and then Vin rolled a 6 for his loadout, and that brought in the IL-2 with a bunch of rockets. So Vin came in, he failed to hit this guy, but of course Vin smoked the Command Panzer III and just blew it up off the table, so I had to pull it shit for that. Vin ended up getting, what'd you say, 13 orders?
Yeah,
he rolled boxcars, and then 15 orders, and then he rolled like a 5 or a 6, so he had 15 orders. So, start of the turn, Vin just starts pushing up the second part of the red tide. But there was an anti-tank rifle team that Vin was trying to push over to the back end over here to help support this flank. They came up to this point right here, and I had these guys in ambush on the hill. I failed my first observation test, hit my second. I ended up spraying down 5 machine gun shots. I got 2 hits. Vin ended up saving 1, he missed another, and then he rolled I think a 2 or 3 for his motivation. These guys were inexperienced. It didn't really factor in, but they ended up breaking. Vin had to pull a shit, and that was the end of the game. So the Soviets just broke the line. We'll be back in a second to go over the end of game recap. This was a pretty close one, so we're going to kind of go over everything. Back in a flash. So we are back for the end of game recap. This game, I'm going to be honest, I got down to 14 battle rating, but it did not feel like a 14 battle rating like edge. Like I lost 22 battle rating. I think my chip pulls, taking away the confusion in the air attack, I had 2 5s, 2 4s, a 2, and then 2 1s. So like I had some big numbers in there. I was sweating a little bit because the stuff that Vin was pulling was ridiculous. He had an air attack. He had a couple other ones like ammo low. So I wasn't really sure what Vin had left in the tank. And when that IL-2 came on, it could have went bad to worse relatively quickly. But I'll kind of go over I guess the German battle plan, then I'll hand it over to Vin. So what I was thinking with that first wave was kind of get my Panzer IV, Panzer III, and those 2 half tracks up here and have them support each other and make my way to that trench line. It was working out pretty well. I was able to kind of neutralize the anti-tank gun and that 76 millimeter in the back and do pretty well. But I wasn't able to get the trench line kind of neutralized and pinned down early on in the game, and I paid for it because Vin just kept rolling sixes, and I mean he had my half tracks pinned like I feel like at least a third of the game to half the game. Those half tracks weren't doing anything at all that was worth a damn. And that was kind of slowing me up on this side. But the plan was, like I said, to get in mass, kind of how it looks right now, and really make a push on these trenches right here, and kind of take that hill, and then use that as a fire base to kind of try to control the table. I only got to this point. Vin's defense held up really, really well. Like I said, reinforcements are coming in over the top too, so like that was pretty big. Over here, pushing up this road on this side with the minefield there. Just the tree cover, the machine gun nest, and everything right here. It was kind of tough, especially with that 45 millimeter still sitting there up until the middle of the game. I wasn't feeling very confident pushing up to here until that kind of got dealt with over there. But like I said, it worked out pretty well. That JU-87, I actually got two of them this game. They did okay. Like I said, taking out that 76 millimeter infantry gun in the back was pretty big. That made a pretty big difference because that kind of opened it up at that point in the game to do some stuff over here. But I just couldn't pop these nests, these bunkers and that machine gun nest over there, and that really hampered my infantry, man. I was trying to push to that trench line, but I just couldn't push through. I just really couldn't push through. It was pretty big. Like I said, it was a fun game. I don't know, Vin, what were you thinking as far as your defense and how you were coming in to reinforce the line?
Defensively, I thought it was pretty much perfect. I don't think it could have gotten any better than it did, considering like obviously the amount of armor that was coming up.
Yeah.
Taking out the big guns early, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference. They probably would have been gone pretty quickly anyway.
Yeah, this gun right here, he didn't really have a chance to even shoot. If you would have been able to take out like one or two of those Panzer 3s or Panzer 4s early in the game, I would have been in much worse shape coming up this side over here, you know? And not having anti-tank rifles in the line early on, and that's just how the high ground thing goes. You can only put certain guys out in here, and, you know, man in the trenches with those guns was probably a bigger deal than bringing the AT rifles out.
Yeah, that's pretty much. That's what I was thinking in the beginning too. Because I thought about bringing the anti-tank rifles out, but I was just like, I would much rather have what's the word? The quantity over quality.
Quantity is its own quality.
Yeah, I was thinking that was probably the way to go with it, considering it was like armor, and I knew it was going to be a pain for you to take them out. So I was just like, hold as long as I could, and they got that second wave coming as a fresh wave.
And plus, you can still hold. I mean, like you can still pin vehicles with those infantry squads. You can't blow anything up, but you can pin. I mean, you played the pin game with those rifle teams really, really well. As far as, like I said, I mean, I just got stuck here. I couldn't do anything.
My whole goal from the get-go was to literally only concentrate, which obviously you noticed, was only concentrate on your infantry and just ignore the tanks.
Yeah,
because they can't charge me, and I was just going to try to hold out till turn 12.
And do it.
That was the game plan.
Well, that's what it was. I mean, like if you think about it, like if you look at those defense lines for the actual siege of Odessa, I mean, like the first line, it was more of a delaying action to try, I think, to get everybody out of the city.
Oh, okay.
And get things set up. So I think it played pretty well. And, you know, like I said, the list that I put together, like I built the list in the scenario, and Vin came over and played it, and like I said, I just wanted to build like a heavy infantry defense line with some AT assets and try to kind of keep it true to form. There wasn't really any tank support or anything like that. So what you see is what you get out here. And I thought Vin actually played it really, really well, despite the disadvantage of not having maybe any armor or any bigger AT assets to kind of deal with it. But like I said, it went to turn 8. And, you know, I was stymied there for the most part. I think if you would have been able to keep your AT guns around maybe a little bit longer and have some of those shots land, it could have been a different story, definitely.
I was really hoping that guy would have lasted a long time, which is why I put him back.
The
big gun.
The infantry gun?
Yeah, I was hoping for that because I was literally just waiting for you to unleash your troops and just start bombarding.
Yeah, I wasn't...
And then that friggin'
airstrike came out. Between the airstrike and then losing that 40, like I said, this setup you had right here with the double hills and the bunkers and this was it was going to be a tough nut to crack, but it just made the most sense as far as I thought, like making the push, because I wasn't going to be funneled in anywhere, and I was worried about that barrage you had as well. But like I said, it was a good game. It was a fun game. You know, it was a themed game. I think we're going to try to play some more Barbarossa. Like I said, I got everything painted up now for both sides, so we're going to try to do a couple more early war battle reports, be a little more frequent with it, maybe take a break from late war for a little bit, and just do a little more Eastern Front. So I hope you guys liked it. You know, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Leave some comments, and we'll catch you guys later.